this is just a piece of scrap pine that I had down in the shop. I'm marking off my rough lines there where I'm gonna round the corners of it. Always wanted to make a paddle tail crankbait with kind of a square bill on it. There's my lines where I'm gonna carve the corners, and I drilled the eye all the way through, and you'll see in a little bit why I did that. But, follow along, you're gonna like the ending of this, I think. Now we're just sanding along with 80 grit sandpaper. That's how I round them off. I don't really use a lot of power tools. And there's my boy Richie. He's always with me. Gotta stop and play with him every now and then. Now I drew me a template for the gill plate. Kind of hard to get them equal, one side to the other. Then I get my knife out and carefully carve up in there so the paint will stick up in yonder. You'll see here in a little bit why. Now I'm drilling out a lead hole, because if you don't put lead in the belly, it'll want to lay up on its side. Get me out some wire. We're going to twist up some hook hangers and a line tie and all that. Right here I'm just cutting the eyelet off of sinkers. I've got all kinds of those. I file it so it'll fit the round hole inside the belly. I've tried to make this lure about 6 or 8 times, and they failed because I've never made one like this before, or at least they didn't meet my standards. But we're going to push it down in there, and we're going to glue it in with some super glue and baking soda. I believe this lure wound up with 3 or 4 holes across his belly to get it to sink right. You know, I want a nice even sink. You don't want it to nose dive or tail dive. And if you put a bunch of super glue in there at one time, it takes it a while to dry. Works pretty good, but you got to keep in mind the baking soda adds a little bit of weight to it. And at the end, when you put your clear coat on, that adds a little bit of weight to it. So there's some guesswork in it, but we'll get her right. I cut me a plexiglass lip and polished her nice and smooth, and trying to see if I can get it squared up. And here I'm filing the super glue and baking soda. I put that lead hole first before I did any more, because that's where one of the hook hangers goes. And then we're going to seal it up and test it in the water. Right now we're going to put some baking soda and super glue around that lip. That's kind of tricky, so I don't film it because you get it all over your camera. You don't want that. Now we're putting in our line tie and our hook hangers, and then we'll continue to see how this goes. The super glue holds the hook hangers and the line tie pretty good. Once you put that UV coating on it, it holds real good. I used to do wire through lures. That way the lure would break before the wire would break. But this right here does a real good job. Now I'm dipping it in polyurethane. Sometimes you get it on the lip and it clouds it up a little bit. I don't worry about it too much because the fish don't worry about it either. Then I let it hang and dry for an entire 24 hours just to be sure she is dry, and taking a paper towel once in a while and touching the drips off of it. Because we got to water test this thing and we need her good and sealed up. Now you can see on that board yonder, there's some burn marks. I drilled various holes and poured lead into them. We're just testing different leads in different places and seeing what kind of sink we get. We're covering it up with some blue tape just for testing purposes, and when we're satisfied with it, we'll glue her in and cover it up with super glue and baking soda again. Now every time I drill a hole in that thing, I seal it in super glue on the inside. That way we don't get this thing waterlogged. We don't want that. That could create problems down the road with the finish. Now when we test the sink rate, I make sure to add the hooks and the split rings. I just hang the split rings on the hooks and put the hook through the eyelet just to make sure the weight's going to be about the same so we know what that sink's going to be. She's floating up nice and straight, but a little too quick, so I had to add some more to the nose of it, and it helped it run better. Now I'm going to paint it. I paint it white first, so it'll show any of my imperfections in my sanding in case it needs it sanded again. This one turned out okay, so we just went for it and started adding different layers of paint. Some of it looks a little crazy to you, but the subtleties underneath gives me a little darker, just a tiny bit darker behind that gill plate, makes it pop out a little bit. You'll see here with the finished product, I hope. Now when I spray the red up into that gill, I sprayed in one direction. Now I'm going to continue to try to spray in the other direction so that that little bit of red stays up in that gill plate throughout the whole process. And we just keep adding layers, and this splotchiness right here, I kind of want that it shows through just a little bit when we're done. This here's a piece of cherry burl scrap. That's why we drilled the eye all the way through. We're going to make the eyes out of cherry burl. Now we're going to see if the eyeballs fit. Put a little black paint in the center. Oh yeah, that's going to look good. Then we'll put it in our UV chamber and make them eyeballs pop. This lure, Lumpy, is going to SmallWater Charters down in Florida. If you want to see if they catch anything, you're going to have to go over there, link below. I sure hope y'all come along with our next adventure, as I'm on the trap line right now. I'm working hard for you. It's been a slow year, but I'm there every day. Sure appreciate you. See you next time. What you doing? What you doing? Well, come on back here.